Biometric passports and ID cards in Algeria are to be withdrawn from municipal halls in a new step aimed at easing the burden on administrative districts. Cultural sharing event Global Village took place today in the central province of Florida, with a large turnout of visitors attending the event. Internationally, France is to welcome 24,000 Syrian refugees, while the UK said it will accept 20,000 over the next 5 years. Those were today's top stories. Thank you for joining us live on Dzair News. In the Algeria-France cooperation track, the Minister of State, Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, Ramtan Lamamra, has held talks in Paris with his French counterpart Laurent Fabius on various topical issues of common concern, with them focused the consolidation of bilateral relations and the boosting of cooperation links in various fields of endeavor. More details on the matter with Mohamed Barazwan.
The discussions between Mr. Lamamra and Mr. Fabius focus on the future meetings relating to the Algeria-French cooperation, including the meeting of COMEFA, or the Algerian-French Joint Economic Committee, scheduled for next October. The current regional and international crises, as well as the situation in Africa and the Middle East, were also at the crux of the Paris discussions. The two ministers also discussed the informal ministerial consultations ahead of the planned conference of the parties to the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, which will be held in Paris next September 2015. Mr. Lamamra started Sunday a 3-day visit to France at the invitation of his French counterpart. In the meantime, it's been announced in Paris that the chairman of the French Senate, Dzair, is expected shortly on a working visit to Algeria at the invitation of his Algerian opposite number, Abdelkader Ben Salah. The upcoming visit by the senior French parliamentarian will be an opportunity for the two sides to explore ways and means of giving a fresh impetus to bilateral relations and cooperation links, notably in the trading and energy sector, as Algeria remains Europe's main natural gas supplier. Mr. Dzair will also tackle with Algerian officials the burning issue of immigration in the Mediterranean basin, as well as security issues, notably in the Sahel region, and how best to further promote the exceptional all-round partnership between Algeria and France for the mutual benefit of the two countries. It should be noted that in 2014, the trade volume between Algeria and France amounted to over $13 billion. France was a third customer of Algeria with $6.74 billion, behind Spain and Italy, and its second supplier with $6.34 billion after China.
Still with national news. It seems that the Minister of Education, Nouria Ben Ghebreed, was finally able to contain the recurrent discontent of education unions after addressing their demand through fulfilling the pedagogical and social claims, hopefully leading to a new stage in the relations between the two parties and issues. More on the matter with Hind Simiras.
Minister of Education Nouria Ben Ghebreed just won her bet against education unions about guaranteeing a calm and peaceful school comeback away from the continuous strikes and protests that have long been a part of the beginning of every academic year. The school comeback was under a festive atmosphere, and this was our goal. The sense of responsibility gladly took over. Earning the trust of education unions was all what Ben Ghebreed wished for since she first set foot in the ministry, despite the conflicts witnessed the past seasons, in addition to her commitment towards the education unions, as well as her keenness to achieve their demands. We made major efforts to accomplish all what we've agreed for. Agreements were signed last year, and we've introduced changes in the education sector. Ben Ghebreed played the role of the interlocutor, succeeding to make the unions, together with their never-ending demands, join her side. Nevertheless, this calm still depends on how much the minister is willing to fulfill her promises.
To another story now. The Minister of Interior and Local Assemblies, Nordin Badoui, revealed a set of administrative procedures concerning biometric passport and identity card. The new measure allows Algerian nationals to submit as well as to retrieve their biometric passport and ID cards at the municipal halls in various parts of the country. The minister told the press that biometric ID card will be used in all sectors of activity, notably in the transport sector when paying, for instance, the fee for using East-West Highway. He also added that the idea of issuing a biometric driver's license is being discussed. Now, in economy-linked news, the Algerian government is now intent on developing industrial investment in order to diversify the national economy and reverse the industrialization which is affecting Algeria's economic apparatus, especially in the light of the severe drop in world oil prices. Mohamed Barzwan has the details.
Economic investment is now high on the agenda of the government, as recently stated by Prime Minister Abdelmalek Salal, who explained that the objective is to create new opportunities for the enhancement of the national economy and the propping up of national and foreign investments. The main goal of the ongoing national economic development policy is to bolster the contribution of the industrial sector in the national economic apparatus and to spur the emergence of viable and productive companies that can fulfill high-quality requirements on both the domestic and foreign markets. The state intends to invest in industries based on natural resources like iron and steel, as well as petrochemicals, pharmaceutical products, building materials, mechanical engineering, textiles, and food processing. To that end, the Algerian government has taken several measures to further foster productive and profit-yielding investments, particularly in the strategic fields of endeavor. These measures are related to the access to industrial lands, tax exoneration for potential investors, as well as incentives for the creation of new small and medium-sized enterprises.
The FC Forum will have an intensified agenda of activities in the current month by notably organizing its first ever summer school on the 30th of the current month in the western province of Tlemcen, in addition to appointing representatives of 10 regional offices across the national territory. The endeavor is as part of the FC's tremendous efforts to help boost the national economy. Hinton Ras has the details.
In an unprecedented step, the FCE Forum will organize for the first time its summer school on the 30th of the current month in the western province of Tlemcen. This tradition has long been restricted to politics in Algeria. This first-of-a-kind initiative will be an opportunity for the FCE to contemplate the new developments of the national economic scene in light of the perpetual fluctuation of oil prices and its repercussions on the country.
We will seize the opportunity to plead in favor of an emerging plan for Algeria, which is underway to be initiated in the 6 months to come. It's worth mentioning that the FCE and its members are ready to contribute to the elaboration of the implementation of this important work.
The forum's activity during the second half of the current year will be intensified with the proceedings of appointing its regional offices, starting the 19th of September by selecting 10 provinces at a time in the case of 2 weeks out of 36 provincial bureaus. The forum is willing to appoint before the end of 2015.
Il ne peut y avoir de développement économique.
There wouldn't be any economic development without a considerable local development and without pretension. Concerning our rescue program to help Algeria emerge from the crisis, contains various pragmatic and realistic suggestions, which allow us to meet our previously set goals.
The intensified agenda of the most influential businessmen's forums in Algeria during this year's second semester will include an effective contribution during the upcoming meeting, in addition to organizing the third edition of the Enterprises Foundation. Preparations are also underway for the Algerian African First Business Congress, considered the most significant event in Algeria's heading towards proving its economical presence in the African continent.
And now we move on to our international news. French President François Hollande said Monday that France will welcome 24,000 people who have fled conflict zones to other European nations under a plan to deal with the continent's biggest refugee crisis in a generation. Speaking at a news conference, Hollande also said France will ready airstrikes against ISIS positions in Syria, deepening the country's involvement in the civil war that is producing most of the refugees who have fled to Europe. The announcement marks a shift in policy for Mr. Hollande, who until now has focused airstrikes against the so-called Islamic State in Iraq while avoiding targets in Syria. Hollande did not want French airstrikes to bolster Syrian strongmen Bashar al-Assad, ISIS' main foe in Syria's chaotic civil war. In the same context, British Prime Minister David Cameron has told MPs the UK will accept up to 20,000 refugees from Syria over the next 5 years. The Prime Minister said the UK had a moral responsibility to resettle refugees living in camps bordering Syria while also doing it all it can and to end the conflict in the country.
But given the scale of the crisis and the suffering of the Syrian people, it is right that we should do much more. So, Mr. Speaker, we are proposing that Britain should resettle up to 20,000 Syrian refugees over the rest of this Parliament. In doing so, we'll continue to show the world that this country is a country of extraordinary compassion, always standing up for our values and helping those in need.
Still in Europe, farmers have clashed with police in Brussels during protests about falling dairy and meat prices in Europe. An estimated 4,000 farmers, including some from Britain, gathered in the Belgian capital on Monday as European farming ministers hold an emergency meeting to discuss the crisis in the agriculture industry. They blocked the streets with tractors, and some protesters pelted the police with eggs and sprayed milks at them. At least one police officer has been injured and water cannon has been used. The Farmers' Union has said that farmers face a state of emergency after a 25% fall in the wholesale price of milk in the past year. In the energy file, Venezuela is seeking an emergency OPEC meeting to figure out how the organization can stem the collapse in oil prices, according to the Wall Street Journal. According to the analysts familiar with the matter, the journal reports that Venezuela has contracted other members of OPEC, the 12-state oil organization led by Saudi Arabia, to hold an emergency meeting in coordination with Russia. More details with Mohammed Barswan.
Russia is not a member of OPEC, the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, but like OPEC's members, Moscow is heavily dependent on oil revenues to meet its governmental budget needs. Venezuela, for its part, has not been handling the collapse in oil prices well. It is teetering on the edge of hyperinflation, with at least one economist calculating the nation's inflation rate at more than 770%. Venezuela's last official inflation print showed prices rose 68% year-over-year in December 2014. An emergency meeting of OPEC members, with or without Russia, is unlikely unless called by Saudi Arabia. The next OPEC meeting is scheduled for December 4th. Earlier this month, analysts argued Saudi Arabia is working to get oil prices low enough that marginal U.S. shale producers halt investment and production. They further underlined that it is very hard to know what price Saudi Arabia is targeting, but its behavior is suggesting that this point has not yet been reached. The complication, of course, is that it's unclear what the status of OPEC is given that it only meets twice a year. OPEC has also been over its production target of 30 million barrels per day at time this year. Most OPEC members, however, can't balance their budget with low prices at current low levels.
Way back to national news now. Global Village is once again here in Algeria, this time in the central province of Blida. The much-anticipated event was spearheaded by Isaac Organization. The latter saw a large influx of young people from different provinces of the country to share thoughts on local culture with foreign students in a number of worthy presentations. Usama Snoussi was on the spot and prepared this for us.
Have you ever dreamt of traveling around the world in a short period of time to experience what the locals do in each place, what they eat and how they live? Well, dream no more, as Global Village can turn your dreams into reality. It's an annual manifestation bringing together people from various cultures and countries in order to celebrate diversity, multiculturalism and global citizenship. After a successful edition by Isaac Babers, here comes the turn for Isaac Blida to prove that they're up to the level, as they gave a space to students to represent their home countries through traditional food, costumes and some stage performance.
I was born in Lisbon and I'm here in Global Village to show the culture of Portuguese people and to share it with the Algerians and other people from other countries. So in this Global Village we actually show our history, our traditions and our way of thinking and living. Considering the Algerian culture, I learned a lot of things. Algerian country, Algeria people are very, very interesting. The country is beautiful, but I think the most beautiful thing in Algeria is the people.
I'm from Ukraine. I'm in Blida at the awesome event called the Global Village. It is already my second experience of being at the Global Village in Algeria. The point of it is to share the culture, to tell people about Ukraine and to find out more about Algeria. The interesting thing about it is that Algerians get a perspective from the outside about their own culture.
And when it comes to culture, when I'm talking about food, we have some foodstuffs that are not found here in Algeria. We have something called ugali. Even I've never found it in Algeria, so sometimes I miss it, I just go for it. And we have something called makande. It's not found here. Our foodstuffs are a bit different from Algerian ones because when we are about when you try to adapt to the Algerian culture, food is the hardest part. Yeah, I love couscous and rishta, tamina, muhajjab, kulish.
The event saw the turnout of young people from different provinces of the country, alongside foreign students, where they shared a friendly environment characterized by diversity and multiculturalism.
Okay, so it's my third Global Village. Everyone was amazing. This one is different because there is a lot of EPs, a lot of people from other countries. Maybe it's not the biggest one, but definitely it's interesting. We've got possibility to present our culture, so it's a great thing.
In Global Village, I wore traditional clothes called hanbok. The name is hanbok, and I explained about Korean culture, like famous martial arts, which is registered in Olympic, like called Taekwondo, and actually K-dramas and K-pop is very famous and popular in Algeria. So I also explained about this.
I'm Turkish girl. I came on 12th of August, and I have one more week here. Today we have a Global Village project. Here we are like 7 countries. We present our own countries. I'm here presenting the Turkish culture, our traditional food, and our costume and everything.
We are really happy today to have this kind of thing, this kind of events, to let people see the real image of all the worlds. Because with these kind of events, like you see, we have all like 5 or 6 countries. We are sharing experiences. Also, we are testing foods and culture.
In its first edition in Blida province, Global Village brought together people from different nationalities, aiming at showcasing their cultures and traditions, and the event was praised by the participants, who said that it was an amazing experience.
That was the end of our news in English. Next on Dzair News is the main Arabic news bulletin with Wasila Benbashi. Please stay tuned. Bye-bye.